Haúsá, Ìgbò, Yorùbá àti àdàpè òyìnbó gbogbo rẹ̀ pátá ló wà lọ́dọ̀ wa ní rédíò àfínjú fún ìwọ tó fẹ́ ṣe àkálẹ̀ àwòrán ara rẹ tàbí tayẹyẹ digbí la wà fún ọ. Ó yá ìwọ tó ti ṣetán láti fi òwò rẹ sí ọkàn gbogbo àwọn oníbàárà rẹ mọ́ dààmú jìnnà mọ́ kàn sí rédíò àfínjú lónìí. Wọ́n wà ní Dàda Estate, Òṣogbo, Ọ̀ṣun State. Ẹ sì lè kàn sí wa bákan náà lórí ẹ̀rọ ayélujára wa Facebook rédíò àfínjú, X rédíò àfínjú, YouTube rédíò àfínjú. Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni o, rédíò àfínjú gan-an ní ìlànà ìgbóhùnsáfẹ́fẹ́ tí kò lábàwọ́n.
Life no get duplicate.
Na so ẹ̀mí ò láàárọ̀ o.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni.
Tẹ́ jẹ́jẹ́ o.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni o. Make you take am easy.
Na so.
Radio Afinju says if you drink, don't drive. If you drive, don't drink.
Tẹ́ jẹ́jẹ́ o.
Make you take am easy.
Na so.
This awareness is brought to you by Radio Afinju.
Wherever you're listening or watching Radio Afinju, the time is 3 p.m.
First, a look at the highlights. Reps demand immediate petrol, cooking gas price hike reversal. Court says impeachment proceedings against Kenyan Deputy President are constitutional. Harris to court Republican voters in Philadelphia. A very good afternoon. Here is the world news on Radio Afinju. My name is Stella. Aderanti, the news in detail. The House of Representatives has waded into the increase in the pump price of petroleum products moved by the Deputy Minority Leader Aliyu Madaki and sponsored by 111 members of the House. The House called for the immediate reversal of the price increase in petrol and cooking gas. The lawmakers said they feared that the hike was causing hardship for Nigerians and threatening job security. The Green Chamber also asked that the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and the Ministry of Petroleum Resources to increase local refining capacity while also calling on the Central Bank of Nigeria to implement monetary policies that will mitigate the adverse effect of fuel price hike inflation. This is as the World Bank has warned that a further increase in the prices of petrol may reverse the already dwindling effects of subsidy removal in the country. The Ondo State chapter of the All Progressives Congress, APC, has slammed Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde for calling for the removal of the state resident electoral commissioner, Babalola Oluwatoyin, ahead of next month's polls. The party said neither Ondo State nor the electoral body was an appendage of Oyo State, where Makinde is the governor, adding that the REC had demonstrated integrity, competence, and capacity to handle any election. A statement by the spokesperson for Ondo APC, Alex Kalejai, criticized Makinde's directive, calling it absurd. Kalejai pointed out that Makinde had no role in the transfer of the REC to Ondo State and held no political influence within the state. The statement described Makinde's advice to Ondo voters not to sell their conscience as insulting, noting that the people of the state are politically sophisticated and act on conviction, not easily swayed. It added that the Ondo APC has strong, unbeatable structures across the state, capable of defeating any party in any election. The Joint Action Committee of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities and the Non-Academic Staff Union of Universities and Allied Institutions has strongly condemned the inauguration of the Renegotiation Committee set up by the federal government. The committee, inaugurated in Abuja, is tasked with renegotiating the 2009 agreements between the government and university-based unions. In a joint statement signed by SANO President Mohammed Ibrahim and NASU counterpart Peters Adeyemi, the unions described the event as a charade, accusing the government of prioritizing the academic staff union of universities while sidelining other unions. The federal government had reconstituted the renegotiation committee, giving it a 3-month timeline to conclude its task. However, SANU and NASU expressed dissatisfaction, stating that the inauguration appeared skewed in favor of ASU. In other news, an early hour inferno from a fallen tanker loaded with premium motor spirit has destroyed many vehicles in the Bafo area of the Obafemi-Owode local government area of the state along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Eyewitnesses disclosed that the driver of the tanker was suspected to have fallen asleep at the wheel, causing him to lose control, which led to the tanker's fall and eventual explosion. Confirming the incident in Abeokuta, the public relations officer of the Ogun State-owned Traffic Compliance and Enforcement, Babatunde Akinbiyi, said no life was lost in the incident. The spilled content was said to have resulted in a fire that quickly spread to vehicles parked at a filling station. Although the Ogun State Fire Service engine was eventually deployed to put the situation under control, the fire had succeeded in burning several vehicles. Several individuals were also said to have sustained varying degrees of injuries. A petrol tanker exploded at Majia Town, Tora local government area, Jigawa State, in a devastating incident on Wednesday morning, leading to the loss of lives of over 105 people, with 55 others hospitalized. The explosion occurred around 12:30 a.m. when the driver of the tanker, traveling from Kano to Unguru in Yobe State, lost control near Khadija University, Majia. According to the police public relations officer of Jigawa State Command, Lawan Adam, the disaster was triggered by residents who had rushed to collect spilled petrol after the tanker overturned. Adam disclosed that the authorities have commenced a mass burial for the victims in the morning, with the entire community mourning the loss. He described the scene as a horrific tragedy, emphasizing the need for the public to understand the risks associated with scooping fuel from accident scenes. Commissioner of Police in Jigawa State, A.T. Abdullahi, expressed his condolences to the families of the deceased and the entire people of Jigawa State. Away from Nigeria, a Kenyan court said impeachment proceedings against the country's deputy president are constitutional, clearing the way for the Senate to hold hearings and vote on his dismissal this week. Kenya's National Assembly voted last week to impeach the deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua, on 11 charges which included corruption, undermining the government, and stirring ethnic hatred. Gachagua has, however, denied all charges. He has said the impeachment motion, backed by opposition lawmakers and allies of President William Ruto, was based on falsehoods that constituted a political lynching. It was confirmed that he launched an appeal in the High Court, but Judge Eric Ogola said the process could go ahead. The deputy president was Ruto's running mate in their 2022 election win, helping secure vital votes from the populous central Kenyan region. But the men have since fallen out and political alliances have shifted. In Asia, the United States, South Korea, and Japan have announced the launch of a new multinational team to monitor the enforcement of sanctions against North Korea after Russia and China thwarted monitoring activities at the United Nations. The mechanism, named the Multilateral Sanctions Monitoring Team, has been introduced after Russia, in March, rejected the annual renewal of a UN panel of experts that had, over the past 15 years, overseen the implementation of sanctions aimed at curbing North Korea's nuclear and missile programs. China abstained from the vote. A South Korean official said the team is meant to continue the UN panel's work, including issuing regular reports on sanctions enforcement, and will involve the participation of 8 other countries, including Britain, France, and Germany. Its launch was unveiled at a joint press conference in Seoul by U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Kurt Campbell, South Korean Vice Foreign Minister Kim Hong-kyung, and Japan's Vice Foreign Minister Masataka Okano, alongside ambassadors of the 8 countries ahead of their talks in Seoul. According to Kim, there have been many discussions about how to build an effective monitoring system that can replace the UN panel, but even during that process, cases of North Korea violating sanctions continue to occur. He added that while the allies will continue to seek ways to reinstate the UN scheme, the team is open to all countries that are willing to help ensure the implementation of sanctions. In the meantime, the government in Beijing said China will never commit to renouncing the use of force over Taiwan after another bout of war games and a visit by Chinese President Xi Jinping to the scene of the famous defeat for Taiwanese forces. China, which views democratically governed Taiwan as its own territory, staged a day of large-scale drills around the island on Monday that it said were a warning to separatist acts following last week's National Day speech by Taiwan President Lai Ching-te. It was reported that President Xi had arrived the previous day on Dangshan Island in China's Fujian province, which faces Taiwan, and where in 1953 China beat off an invasion attempt by Taiwan-based military. The defeated Republic of China government fled to Taiwan in 1949 after losing a civil war with Mao Zedong's communists. No armistice or peace treaty has ever been signed. It was learned Xi was on the island to learn about efforts to revitalize the countryside and the passing on of red genes and strengthening the protection of cultural heritage. In Europe, an Italian ship, the Libra, carrying a first group of migrants to be processed in Albania, arrived in the port of Schengen earlier in the morning, setting in motion a controversial plan to process thousands of asylum seekers abroad. Italy has built 2 reception centers in Albania, the first such deal involving a European Union nation diverting migrants to a non-EU country in an effort to deter irregular arrivals. The first group of migrants to be processed under the new arrangement, comprising 10 Bangladeshis and 6 Egyptians, was picked up at sea on Sunday aboard boats that had set sail from Libya. They will be checked in Shenzhen and then taken inland to Jada, a small village about a 15-minute drive away, where they will be accommodated until their papers are processed. Once their papers are processed, they will be either sent to Italy if the answer to their asylum request is positive, or back home if their request was rejected. Italy has said only non-vulnerable men coming from countries classified as safe will be sent to Albania. In Turkey, an earthquake with a magnitude of 5.9 struck eastern Turkey's Malatya province today, the country's Disaster and Emergency Management Authority, AFAD, said, adding that there were no immediate reports of damage or casualties. AFAD said the quake occurred at 10:46 a.m. with its epicenter in the district of Kil, some 25 miles east of the city of Matalya. The country's state news agency said the quake was also felt in Syria's Hazaka, Deir al-Zor, and Aleppo provinces. The European Mediterranean Seismological Center said the quake had a 6.1 magnitude and was at a depth of 5.6 miles below the Earth. In the Americas, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, a Democrat, will aim appeal to Republican voters in this year's presidential election as she plans to visit a battleground county in Pennsylvania, joined by Republican supporters, and to appear on conservative-leaning Fox News. In Bucks County, outside of Philadelphia, Harris is expected to emphasize her Republican challenger Donald Trump's attempt to overturn his election loss 4 years ago when he lost the White House to current President Joe Biden. A senior Harris campaign official said over 100 Republicans will join Harris in Bucks County, including Adam Kinzinger, a former congressman and member of the committee that investigated the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol by supporters of then-President Trump. Trump will likewise participate in a town hall hosted by Univision, and Fox News will air a separate Trump town hall with an all-women audience. Reports said Harris has previously attempted to court voters disillusioned by Trump. Earlier this month, former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney, daughter to former Vice President Dick Cheney, urged voters to put country over party and vote for Harris, saying that Trump was not fit to lead the U.S. Wednesday's speech, due to take place near where George Washington and thousands of troops crossed the Delaware River in the Revolutionary War, comes as early voting began in the area on Tuesday. In the Middle East, an Israeli airstrike on the municipal building in Nablus, a major town in southern Lebanon, which serves as a provincial capital, has killed at least 6 people, including the mayor. 2 security sources said the strike came despite U.S. concerns about rising death tolls and fears of a wider regional escalation. Hours earlier, at least one Israeli strike hit Beirut's southern suburbs after the U.S. said it opposed the scope of Israeli attacks in Lebanon's capital. Witnesses say they heard 2 blasts and saw plumes of smoke emerging from 2 separate neighborhoods. It came after Israel issued an evacuation order earlier in the day, which mentioned only 1 building. The Israeli military has in recent weeks carried out strikes on Beirut's southern suburbs, the stronghold of Iran-backed Hezbollah, without advance warnings or with a warning for one area while striking more broadly. The Israeli military said it conducted a strike on an underground Hezbollah weapons stockpile in the southern Beirut suburb of Dahieh. Israeli military evacuation orders now affect more than a quarter of Lebanon, according to the UN Refugee Agency, 2 weeks after Israel began incursions into the south of the country that it says are aimed at driving back Hezbollah. And talking sports, former Chelsea manager Thomas Tuchel has been named the new head coach of the England national team, the country's football association said in a statement. The statement added that the German, who is English third foreign manager after Sweden Sven-Göran Eriksson and Italian Fabio Capello, will be assisted by Englishman Anthony Barry. FA CEO Mark Bullingham said they are thrilled to have hired Thomas Tuchel, one of the best coaches in the world, and Anthony Barry, who is one of the best English coaches, to support him. Tuchel replaces Lee Carsley, England's under-21 manager, who has been in temporary charge since the resignation of Gareth Southgate after England's defeat by Spain in the Euro 2024 final in July. Before we go, here again are the highlights. The House of Representatives has waded into the increase in the pump price of petroleum products. Elsewhere, a Kenyan court said impeachment proceedings against the country's deputy president are constitutional, clearing the way for the Senate to hold hearings and vote on his dismissal this week. And from the Americas, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, a Democrat, will aim appeal to Republican voters in this year's presidential election as she plans to visit a battleground county in Pennsylvania, joined by Republican supporters, and to appear on conservative-leaning Fox News. And that was the world news on Radio Afenju.